Let's move then to this story. This, of course, is Rachel Reeves has told the budget watchdog that the way to repair public finances is an increase in income tax. The 2025 budget looms. That should be Finn, I think, not 2026. There is one of those looming as well, isn't there? But certainly the one this year, I think, is looming quite nearer. Will the Chancellor change her mind about this pending tax rise? What do you think? Helen Thomas, CEO of Blonde Money, joins us. Nice to see you again, Helen. Good to have you with us. I mean, it's, will she, won't she kind of moment. The smart money, if you're going to go to the bookmakers, is that, yes, she will, in terms of tax rises.
Oh, absolutely, she will. Look, there is, as we know, a downgrade that the OBR have done, which means she's got to find more money. Don't forget, of course, that she's got to find more money from those welfare reforms she couldn't get through her party. That was about $5 billion. Then there's all the talk of getting rid of the two-child benefit cap, a bunch of other stuff, of course, that her party want. Look, when you add it all up, we're talking big numbers. We're talking 20, 30, 40 billion, and that's before we've seen exactly what the OBR has to say. So there's only one way to be sure that you will raise big sums, and you've got to move the big taxes. Yeah. And that's why she's in this mess, of course, because she promised not to. Yeah,
indeed. And, there's all these other sort of smaller taxes. They're not small to individuals, and they all add up to, telephone number kind of figures. But broadly speaking, you have to cut to the chase on this, don't you? If you need to raise that kind of money, then the obvious place you are going to go is income tax. I mean, there's, you can tinker around with taxing airlines or, some other tax on getting rid of your grass at the local tip, but it's income tax, isn't it? It's income tax.
Well, here's the thing. There's 29.5 million taxpayers, so it's a broad number of people. So, that if anyone can do the maths, as they say, and if you take that number of people and you adjust the numbers, you're going to get a big number at the end. Because here's the other thing, tax changes behaviour. We've heard a lot about the Laffer curve recently. The man behind it seems to be everywhere at the moment, giving interviews.
That's right. People forget that fella's still around. People have talked about the Laffer curve since I've been alive. And suddenly, this fella turned, he's a real person. Yeah, there he is. Is it Arthur, I think, isn't it? Arthur Laffer.
Arthur Laffer.
And there he is. He's out on the speaking circuit.
He is. And famously, the curve that he created, which is saying that there comes a point where you put up tax too much, you will not get more revenues in. Putting taxes at 95% doesn't get you any more money in. And Britain was at those high levels, of course, back in the day. Apparently, he drew it on a napkin, this famous curve. Wow. But I think it instinctively is something people understand, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely right. But is there a sweet point, though, which I suppose is what the Treasury tried to look for, where you could argue that there's also an inevitability. If you were looking at this from a Rachel Reeves perspective, you'd go, look, we need the money. There is a point when those who've got more can stomach it. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's ideal, but it's the only place we're going to go. So we're going to whack on, 5p onto income tax and go further so that we've then got wiggle room. We can actually start doing some other stuff as well.
Well, look, yes, of course, it's not just trying to fill in these numbers of those 30, 40 billion pounds to get that fiscal gap to be filled in. She really wants to make sure, well, goodness me, I can't believe I'm saying this, that she doesn't want to come back again. I mean, how many times has she been back again after saying she didn't want to? Yeah. But the thing of all of this is that they're all interlinking parts. Look, what happens if that we're at a point where, frankly, you've been discussing, people are feeling quite low at the moment. This tips a few people into staying at home a bit more, not going out. They certainly can't afford a fish and chips on a Friday and all those sorts of things anymore. And then what happens is it all has a knock-on effect. And then you get people going into unemployment, then the benefit bill rises, then borrowing rises, then yields rise. Yeah. I mean, this is a complex being. So although she's trying to sort of do one spreadsheet, it's far, far more than that. And frankly, I think quite a lot of damage has already been done simply because of how long and drawn out this process has been. And goodness me, these leaks that we're getting are quite extraordinary for the detail of what we are to expect will happen on 26th of November.
In terms of cutting spending, now you alluded to it at the beginning, they had some a few ideas about the welfare department, and of course those backbenchers discombobulated at the mere idea. And of course this was never even about substantially cutting it. This was about cutting the increase in it, and that was enough to scare the living daylights out of the sort of more left-wing part of the Labour Party, who were very dominant. So it never really happened. But there's got to be a reality check here somewhere, isn't there, where somebody says, look, we are spending a lot of money, and we need to curtail that spending.
Well, I think that is becoming ever more the key argument politically now. And, you know, people watching this will have their own view of where they sit on that. But, you know, the government has gone from spending about 35% of GDP to 45% of GDP. And these are big numbers. And a bit like the Laffer curve, it gets to a point where if the government can't prop everything up, it just costs too much. It will get into a crisis. So you know, spending is certainly now the focus. I mean, I do think that Rachel Reeves's surprising statement she made this week was actually for Labour MPs, which was, I've got to do this. You didn't let me do anything on spending, which, as you say, wasn't even less spending. It was just a bit less in the rate of growth of spending.
Yes, yeah.
But here's the thing. There's about half of these Labour MPs are new, never been MPs before. I think for a lot of them, 14 years of Tory rule, which they paint as austerity, doing all this damage in their view, they cannot bring themselves to do anything on the spending front. It's not what they got into politics for. Yeah. But and that's you talk about this rebellion and the left of the Labour Party. It's not even really the left. I mean, we run the numbers. We do a lot of analysis on every single MP. We could see the breadth of opposition to those welfare reforms. It was in getting on for 100 MPs. It's not just sort of
it's maybe across the board. I guess there's something sort of intrinsic with, you know, when I say left-wing thinking, with Labour thinking, shall we say, that the minute you mention welfare in close proximity to the word cut, people lose their mind.
There is, and there are ways of doing it. Of course, the fact it was managed, it was rushed to try and meet the OBR. Famously, of course, Rachel Reeves loves the OBR. She's obsessed by it. She thinks that's why Liz Truss got defenestrated, was just because of the OBR. So that meant that they got in this real focus on, you know, how are you graded for your disabilities? And, it got into such a horrible mess, rather than the big question of what do we do welfare for? Who should it go to? How do we manage this going forwards?
Listen, Helen, on that point, it's not going to be dull, and maybe we will speak on Budget Day as well. Helen Thomas, CEO of Blonde Money, with us on the programme. Thank you to her. There's going to be a tax rise, OK? Let's just get that out the way. There's going to be a tax rise. If there's not going to be a tax rise, then I may well eat my abacus, because where else is this dosh going to come from? Find out more full coverage on the 28th, of course, which is the Rachel Reeves Budget of Joy, as it's now going to be titled. 26th, I apologise. Straight after PMQs, you'll hear it here on Talk, and the full analysis, and specifically what it means for you. Now, normally on a budget day or post-budget, when you ask that question, what does it mean for you? You know, well, no one's digested the flipping budget at that point. It's normally the next day you get the full headlines. However, I think with this one, I think there's going to be 2 or 3 quite obvious, glaring headlines that jump straight out on this one. We'll bring you all that detail and debate it as well, coming up here on Talk.